Your body is bleeding heat right now, and you can't see a single drop. Not through holes in your jacket, not from wind on your face, but through 3 invisible pathways that drain your core temperature while you sleep, hike, or wait out a storm. Most survival courses obsess over fire kits and emergency blankets, but miss these silent thieves, stealing 70% of your body heat before you even feel cold. Tonight, we expose the physics most instructors skip. 3 invisible heat traps that work while you rest, that cost nothing to defeat, and that separate those who walk out of extreme cold from those who don't. These aren't hacks. They're laws of thermodynamics, and the first one is stealing heat from you this very second. Trap number 1. The ground conduction sink. While you worry about air temperature, the earth beneath you conducts heat away from your body 4 times faster than cold air. Physics doesn't care about your sleeping pads. Our value rating, that number assumes perfect lab conditions. Reality? The moment you lie down, your hip bones compress the pad's baffles, collapsing air pockets into thermal bridges that channel heat straight into frozen soil. Within 45 minutes, your core temperature begins dropping, not because the air is cold, but because the ground is actively pumping your metabolic heat into the earth. The fix isn't a thicker pad, it's elevation. 3 inches of still air beneath your insulation disrupts conduction completely. Ow! Place a closed-cell foam pad underneath your inflatable pad, not on top. That foam resists compression at pressure points while the air gap beneath it blocks ground convection currents. Field tests in Alaska show this hybrid system reduces conductive heat loss by 63% compared to single-pad setups. You haven't added warmth, you've plugged the invisible drain. Trap number 2, the radiant cold sink. Cold surfaces don't just fail to warm you, they actively steal your body heat through infrared radiation. Stand in a 50-degree room with walls at 40 degrees and you'll shiver. Stand in a 45-degree room with walls at 55 degrees, and you'll feel comfortable. Why? Your skin radiates heat toward colder surfaces at a rate proportional to the 4th power of temperature difference. That tent wall at 10 degrees Fahrenheit isn't neutral. It's a heat vacuum pulling 50 watts of radiant energy from your body while you sleep. Most campers fight this by cranking heaters, wasting fuel to warm cubic feet of air. The invisible fix? Radiant barriers. Not space blankets crinkling under you, but strategic placement of any low emissivity surface between your body and cold walls. Your emergency Mylar blanket belongs taped to the inside of your tent wall, facing inward, not wrapped around you. Why? It reflects your body's infrared radiation back toward you while blocking line of sight to the cold wall. Even better, place a second radiant barrier beneath your sleeping pad, aluminized side up, to reflect conductive heat loss back upward. This dual barrier system reduces radiant heat loss by 40% without adding a single watt of generated heat. Trap number 3, the vapor condensation cycle. Every exhale inside your shelter releases half a gram of water vapor. Over 8 hours. That's over a gallon of invisible moisture flooding your microclimate. But here's what kills you silently. That vapor migrates directly into your insulation's fibers, collapsing down clusters, saturating synthetic fills, and freezing into ice crystals that conduct heat 400% more efficiently than dry fabric. By hour 3 of sleep, your 800 fill down bag might perform like 300 fill not from cold air, but from your own breath crystallizing inside its walls. The invisible trap? Sealed shelters that prioritize weatherproofing over breathability. The fix: directional vapor flow. Sleep with your head outside your sleeping bag's hood, just your face exposed. Counterintuitive, but critical. Your face generates minimal heat compared to your core, and the 3-degree cooling is vastly preferable to saturating your entire bag. Pair this with a single high vent open just 2 inches positioned upwind to create Bernoulli effect suction that actively pulls vapor upward and out before it condenses. Dry 20-degree insulation at 15-degree air temperature outperforms saturated 0-degree insulation every time. Now integrate all 3 traps into one system, the survival trifecta that works while you sleep. Step 1 at camp setup: create elevation. Place closed cell foam pad first, then inflatable pad on top. This plugs the conduction sink. Step 2 before lying down. Open one high vent, 2 inches on the upwind side. Sleep with head outside bag hood. This manages the vapor cycle. Step 3 at bedtime. Tape mylar strips to tent walls at shoulder and hip height, shiny side facing inward. Place a second mylar sheet beneath your pad. This neutralizes the radiant sink. Total added weight, 7 ounces. Total added cost, 3 for Mylar from Hardware Store. Total thermal gain, equivalent to adding 20 degrees of rated insulation to your sleep system, not by generating heat, but by stopping invisible losses most survivalists never measure. Critical failure points that break this system and how to spot them before hypothermia sets in. Warning sign 1, localized cold spots that follow your body position. Hip cold, roll over, other hip cold. That's conduction sink reactivating, add clothing stuffed beneath pressure points immediately. Warning sign 2, visible breath plume inside tent after hour 2. That's vapor saturation, open vents incrementally until plume dissipates before condensing. Warning sign 3, tent walls feeling clammy to touch at midnight. That's radiant barrier failure reposition Mylar to ensure no gaps face your body. These aren't comfort issues, they're early failure indicators in your thermal defense system. Respond within 10 minutes and you preserve metabolic reserves. Wait until shivering begins, and you've already burned 400 calories just to stabilize core temperature calories you likely can't replace tomorrow. Why indigenous Arctic peoples survived with minimal gear? They engineered around these invisible pathways rather than fighting physics. The Inuit didn't sleep directly on snow. They carved sleeping platforms, elevated 6 inches above the igloo floor, creating an air gap that disrupted conduction. They left small gaps at the igloo's apex, not construction flaws, but vapor exhaust ports that leverage convection to move breath moisture upward and out before condensing. They lined sleeping areas with caribou hides positioned with fur facing inward, creating a low emissivity radiant barrier that reflected body heat back towards sleepers, while blocking line of sight to cold snow walls. No high-tech materials, just geometry applied to thermodynamics. Our modern equivalent isn't buying expensive gear. It's arranging what you carry to plug these 3 invisible drains. The metabolic math that makes this non-negotiable. A dry sleeping system might require your body to generate 80 watts of heat to maintain comfort at 15 degrees Fahrenheit. That same system, saturated to 20% moisture content, requires 130-40 watts, 62% more metabolic output. Over 8 hours, that's an additional 140-40 kilocalories burned just to stay warm, equivalent to an entire day's food ration. You won't consciously feel this drain. Your body will simply shiver more, sleep less deeply, and wake with unexplained fatigue. By day 3 of a winter expedition, this cumulative deficit manifests as poor decision-making, reduced motivation, and increased accident risk. Studies of winter mountaineering expeditions show teams that maintained dry insulation consumed 22% fewer calories per day than teams with chronically damp gear despite identical routes and temperatures. Plugging invisible heat traps isn't comfort. It's metabolic economy, the difference between carrying 5 days of food versus 7 days for the same route. Final truth, survival in extreme cold isn't about generating more heat. It's about plugging invisible drains most people never see. The ground conduction sink, the radiant cold sink, the vapor condensation cycle. Master these 3 physics principles, and you'll sleep warmer with less gear, less fuel, and more resilience than those chasing higher R values and bigger heaters. Because thermodynamics doesn't negotiate. It only responds to geometry, material properties, and understanding. Carry that understanding heavier than your gear, and you'll never bleed heat invisibly again. Stay warm, stay aware, and remember, the coldest threat isn't what you feel, it's what you don't.